So let's continue on by taking a deep dive into the state of Utah farming and ranching. And it's interesting to look at the Utah agricultural transformation from 1975 to 2020 and really compare it to what's been happening in the broader United States. Because from 97 to 2017, the number in farms in Utah actually rose from 15,800 to 18,400 versus farms in the US, which has been on a pretty steady decline and then holding pretty static. Farms in Utah have increased, but the average, the amount of acres of farmland has really declined since 2000. So we've been losing farmland, but getting more farms. And then average farm size dropped from 760 to 587 acres. Again, a little bit larger than the average of 460 acres for the United States. So we have a little bit bigger farms. We've been adding more farms, but Utah has also been losing agricultural land. And then looking at the breakdown, there's 10.97 million acres of farmlands in Utah. And this is a map that comes from Feeding the Economy that highlights in the bright green the agricultural lands. And of that almost 11 million acres, we have 1.65 million acres of cropland, 8.57 million acres of pasture land, and 1.1 million acres is irrigated. So we have an abundance of both pasture and cropland scattered across the entire state of Utah. And then pulling from the Utah State University Extension report, here's some farm size and demographics. Almost 90% of farms in Utah are less than 500 acres. So most of them are small farms. And then it's also small farms by sales. 90% have less than $100,000 in annual sales. So most of the farms are small in acreage and sales. And then ownership is interesting. 71% of all farms are fully owned by the principal operator. 24% have part owners, and then 10% are in partnerships. And then only 6% are tenants on the land that they farm. And then there's a mix of family corporations, trusts, and non-family corporations. But most of the farms are owned by the principal operators. And then some of the demographics are most of the farmers are male, it's 63%. And then the age demographics are also interesting, with 32% being 65 and older, 35 to 64 is 60%, and only 9% are less than 35, which is another huge opportunity with this integration of energy systems and water and regenerative grazing and crop to really inspire a new generation to come in, along with creating a positive economic base to really support, a transition from what is an older generation of farmers and really being able to transfer their wisdom while creating a solid economic foundation to bring in the new generations. So looking at the economic industry of Utah and its contributions to the powerhouse economy, in 2020, Utah generated 1.8 billion in agricultural cash receipts. And if you include processing industry, represents 2.7% of the total state GDP. So direct jobs is 200,000. Direct wages is 5.87 billion, and the total economic output is $24 billion. When you put it, and it pays 6.4 billion in taxes, and we export almost $1 billion. And this comes from a really interesting report called Feeding the Economy, which really takes a wonderful analysis of the broad implications of how farms not only feed us and provide us with healthy sustenance from within our communities, but also how they're a huge contribution to the economy. And then looking at Utah's ag production and also as it's related to resiliency, animal agriculture is by far the single largest sector of farm income, valued at over $1 billion. And 25 of the state's 29 counties report livestock as the dominant agricultural sector. And this is pulling from a really amazing report that was done by Envision Utah about envisioning agriculture for Utah out to 2050. And what it looked at is how self-sufficient Utah is today in the categories of grains, proteins, fruits, vegetables, and dairies, But also, as we were looking at that huge increase in demographics, potentially up to 2.5 million new Utahns coming in over the next 25 years, that the red represents if we maintain the existing level of agriculture, where right now Utah is an exporter of protein and grain, it would go into the negative and become less self-sufficient. And then Utah only currently produces 3% of its fruit needs, 2% of its vegetable needs, and 25% of its dairy. So part of this agricultural transformation is really impacted Utah's ability to be resilient and self-sufficient, even though it has a powerhouse of an agricultural industry. And then looking at the major crop types, hay and haylage is by far the biggest at 488 million. Wheat at a much smaller 32 million, and corn is at 20 million, and then cherries at 8.5 million. So these are all significant crop types that will really wonderfully synergize with agrivoltaic systems and represent a huge opportunity to take the dominant crop types in Utah and be able to integrate them, but also looking particularly with cherries and other fruit orchards, how there's an opportunity to integrate agrovoltaics to re-stimulate the orchards of Utah. And this is also from the Envision Utah Envisioning Agriculture to 2050 report, where they show, from 78 to 06, we had a big peak in the 80s where we had more than 14,000 fruit acres in production, but that has shrunk to almost 6,600 acres in 06. So it's also showing a diverse range of wonderful fruit types of peaches, cherries, and apples that can really thrive in Utah, but has been on the decline. And agrovoltaics really presents an opportunity to come in and re-stimulate the orchard market. Thank you for taking the time to watch this section of the Utah Agrivoltaic Storage and EV Microgrid Market Intelligence Analysis. It's my prayer that you found a lot of really valuable knowledge and insights and hopefully inspiration about how you can participate in taking the great state of Utah and transforming it into more abundant, secure, and prosperous future for all Utahns, but how Utah is really a keystone state within the heart of the Rocky Mountains that has the opportunity to really integrate with this incredible 7-state regional market, and how Utah is an economic powerhouse and technological innovation hub can really inform that regional market, the broader United States and the world. And regardless of what channel you're finding this transmission, that you'd be inspired to watch all sections of this market intelligence analysis, which you can find at butterflypower.org. And we would be humbled and honored if you'd give it some love, a like, and share it, specifically with a farmer or a rancher or investors who are looking at investing their capital in ways to create a more regenerative future, or really anyone who's wanting to come and participate in this broad scale, bottom up, inside out transformation of our economy, our energy system, and our environment. And it's just a blessing to be here in this time and to participate in this great and good work. And we are the butterfly generation. It's time to rise and shine. Time to transform and fly.